is certainly an admirable pace to hold. Now we've got the fellas over on the right side, Anna. They're 4.3k in. We're in for a bit of a battle tonight. We've got Phoenix out on course, and of course Deepak and Beast Mode, who will be inevitably end up talking about quite a lot. They will go off last and second last because they do start in reverse order of how they are standing overall.
Yeah, so that is going to be one battle to watch. I did actually want to note there is a little thing I found out in Zwift. So I don't know if this is common knowledge. Tell me if you're watching if it is common knowledge. But if you look at that bike, that Tron that the lead rider is on, there are certain Trons you can pick. When you slide the little line on what color you want, you'll see that the front angle, her wheel is pink. On the side, it's blue. You can actually get a two-tone Tron by just adjusting that little slider to hit exactly in between two colors. So I don't know if anyone else knew that. I don't know if it's common knowledge. I found it out, and you can pick some really wicked-looking bike colors just by moving that little slider into a perfect little point between two colors.
Well, given how few actually choose bikes with that mixed colour, I would suggest that that's a bit of an unknown. So we'll see if anybody adjusts it from next week. The Spin Mafia, Jodie Hamilton, just pushing slightly off the front there. She's quite a wonderful social media user and engager. It's great to have her in the community league, and she kind of really embodies what it's all about, to be part of the league and part of the fun here in the WTRL Zwift community racing leagues. Now, if we look at let's just take a look at the split times, because they've gone through that 16 kilometre
well
time
ahead.
check for team. Yeah, we ate the cake. They've really had a very good day out on course. So nearly 2 minutes into Spin Mafia, Rave see another nearly minute back, and then another minute and a half back to the Queen Bees. So they've had a pretty good day. Herd of Bilbies usually, I would say, might pick up a little bit by the end because they've had some good teams time trial rides, but we are still waiting for them to come into that 16 kilometre time check. 20 kilometres, of course, is the finish.
Yeah, that's quite the lead by We Ate the Cake. But when we watched them, when we had the sort of the visuals on that team, they looked phenomenal, both on the climb, on the downhill, and then rolling through turns again. So I'm not surprised to see they've gained another sort of 45 seconds on that second team. We can just see them coming in now. They're sort of rolling around to the finish. Like I said, really hard to keep in that formation when the road's going, up at 4%, down at 3%. Really, really tricky team time trial course, especially with that QOM thrown into the mix. And the teams that are just going to really lose a lot of time are the ones who just went too hard and burnt too many matches on that QOM, or got really split up like we saw and end up riding the downhill with almost no momentum just as solo riders. So these guys have sort of done a masterclass here. They're riding really well, really impressed with the work they've put in. I think this definitely shows that they've recon the course, they know whose strengths are where, and they've made the most of that. Look like they have dropped one rider off the back, but that could have been a sort of strategic drop. So yeah, great job here. We ate the cake. Loving how you've raced this one.
So let's jump across and take a look at the men now that we've seen the women and how it's done. You're right, they've given us a bit of a masterclass. So let's see if the blokes can live up to that. We're over with Phoenix. This isn't too bad. A little bit of a split up the climb there, but come back together. But this is the moment I was talking about, Anna, where when it does split and come back together, those riders at the front need to anticipate that a little bit more to stop this, the interruption of speed that's happening. Now, given that's a pretty tough thing to do in the virtual world, this can be smoothed out a little bit with a little bit of practice and a little bit more communication between them. But if the four of those can regroup without dropping any speed, they certainly uh, they certainly haven't dropped the ball here. So let's just take a bit of a replay here, because we've got this is 3k back, and we've got an early overtake by the sickly Stefanelli, the Italian team. Now, this looked like a pretty smooth overtake, Anna, like they're in pretty good shape. But we're now understanding that they're now 43 seconds back. So, I
Something's
wonder what's
happened.
happened there. Yeah, but that was a pretty I mean, they started quick, bearing in mind it's only
Oh,
5K
here we
in.
go.
So, look
There's
at
someone dropping
this,
off.
this oh,
Oh, they're
this
both
is
going to
something
0.
going
Why
on
were they
there.
going to 0? That's
Hmm,
not good.
I wonder if they had some technical issues there, but that certainly does not look how it should. Got 2 out the front
No,
that are now
Steph
waiting. Hmm.
A Leo's had a technical. A Leo looks like he's sitting there 0 watts for a very long time, and unfortunately, I think that was their fourth rider. Yeah, it was. They've only got 4 riders out there, and they've had a technical that's absolutely devastating. They've probably had to get off the trainer and try and fix that and get back on course. That is always the risk when you've only got 4 riders. Oh man, 41 seconds. You just want them to catch up again. That's brutal for these guys to have started so strong and then had a technical, but you've just got to have that full suite of riders. You never know what's going to happen out on course, and you need sort of the plan Bs there as well. And I'm stoked that they've all gone back and regrouped, come back together, and they're getting a lot of time on the Phoenix group in front of them. Hopefully they don't blow up. Hopefully they're not sort of riding in anger at the moment. But oh man, that's tough to see.
Well, there was in real life racing we saw on the weekend in Australia with the Aussie Nationals. There were a number of falls, especially in the criteriums, and really interesting. Anna was the comments that came from some of the riders that weren't injured but were able to rejoin. Was that it actually helped their race because it spiked their adrenaline and really got them going. And there is an element of that, I think, when you have a mishap, whether it be a light fall or whether it be a technical problem, it does really spike that adrenaline and that cortisol, and it gets your heart rate going and it gets you moving a little bit. In saying that, you don't wish for it, but sometimes that compensates somewhat for a little bit of the disaster that that can cause. But I actually think there were two of the riders who had
Mm,
some technical problems because both Leo and Tasso went to 0 very quickly, both at a really inopportune time, and it looked to me like, the other 2 riders in Fagarazzi and Osso were then scrambling to figure out what was going on and how they could, respond to that. Now Leo is off the back again. Is this a technical problem, or did that spike in adrenaline we were just talking about kind of push him over the edge, while going up a climb? I really hope these guys can get back together because that's really unfortunate, and it's very clear they were on a really good one.
I don't know where these guys are from in Italy, but I'm just Googling the weather at the moment in Italy because sometimes when you see dropouts like that happening to multiple teammates from the same country, it can be because there's like a crazy storm going on. I know I race with quite a few girls from Quebec, and they've sort of been going through some gnarly ice storms, and you're always a bit worried about the internet connection. But it looks like it's a balmy sort of 13 degrees Celsius, 79% humidity, 18 kilometre an hour winds. So perfect actual conditions where they are. So who knows what's going on, why they're sort of facing these little dropouts.
I feel like you may be taking the mickey out of me, Anna, because before we came on air, I was complaining about the weather in Ballarat and how it was 12 degrees and utterly unpleasant and unworkable for me. Now you're saying it's delightful for the Italians. I see what you're doing there, but you do have a fair point. And there is never an Australian who can claim that there is a snowstorm interrupting their internet connection. I can tell you that much.
Maybe just like snakes in the wiring or something. But
Yeah, yeah,
look,
yeah, a huntsman chewed through your cable or something like that. I don't actually think huntsmen can chew through anything, but, it's a good myth to put out there.
and this is Team Aero here. So they performed very well. Their female team, I believe, in the Premier Division earlier today. So these guys, again, only 4 riders. So we do see this a bit more in the community teams just because people have, real life things going on. I've just seen someone comment on our Facebook. She wasn't able to race because of hashtag mum duties. But 4 riders here from Aero. It looks like they've maybe just started with this number, and it's going to be quite hard, but they all look like they're sort of keeping together, staying at a good pace. It's when you've got one who's really strong and one who's really struggling that this can be a tough time for those 4 riders. But I like the way these guys are riding. They're catching those in front, the Italian team who are having those technical issues. But I like the Aero team tonight. They're looking good, all matching bikes. It's a nice thing to see.
Yeah, they're well coordinated, and again, I think these fellas are out of Federation Uni in Ballarat, so, really cool that one of our big universities has really gotten, behind esports, and it's not only some of their students, and athlete students, but also some of the staff, so I think that that's really cool, that they're doing that, and as for the, hashtag mum duties, that's a far bigger technical than any snowstorm ever could be, so good luck to her this evening, and hopefully we'll see you next week on the bike.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and WTRL Pioneers, these guys are pretty good in this league. I think they'll be keeping a nice sort of tight formation. They probably race in the WTRL team time trials that happen on a Thursdays and Fridays, I believe, every week. So I think these guys will be a nice tight unit. Looks like they're gaining a little bit of time on TBR behind them. So good to see them out here in that sort of black and yellow kit. And we have seen though a first time check from the Phoenix Cycling Collective, 9:30 at the 6K mark. So that's our benchmark now. We'll see where all the other teams line up against that.
Well, that's interesting because our Team Aero women in the A's, they went through that 6K in 9:40. So that is certainly the fastest we've seen on course tonight so far. I have a feeling that Beast Mode might fly through there and shave a little bit of time off that. But it's been a good
Mm.
start for the Phoenix Cycling Collective. You were talking about how some of them formed good formations. Let's just take a quick look at these league standings. DPAC and Beast Mode, look at them, 78. They are tied up the top there. And as we go down, this is the reverse starting order. So the Pioneers have been out on course first, followed by Sickly, Stefanelli, and so on and so forth. They're in reverse order. So bearing in mind, WTRL Pioneers are actually the first that are out there on course. But I think they have actually been passed now by Sickly, Stefanelli. So the Italians, it's been a bit of an on and off day for them, but they're doing well. So the WTRL Pioneers, Anna, you were saying that they do quite a lot in the weekly time trial leagues. It's interesting, I think, to consider that sometimes you get so used to what your teammates' strengths are that if one rider's having a bit of a bad day, it can really throw off the whole kind of rhythm and juju of the whole team because you just come to expect something very specific from the other athletes. And so you do need to be a little bit agile. No matter how many of these you do, you've still got to be able to think on your feet.
Exactly. Before I go on to an answer there, can you just give me a definition of juju?
I knew you were going to ask that. Look, I think it's it's the vibe, Anna. It's just the general feeling. It's the general rhythm. I mean, for any Aussies who have seen The Castle, they would understand what I say when I say it's the vibe.
I love it. And I've actually just seen a note coming in here from Margarita. So I saw her pop this up that they just faffed the start a little bit, got too excited, and it's not TTT season if someone doesn't jump the gun. So, I mean, you bring that into it as well. Everyone just gets so nervous for these. As a DS, you get nervous. As a rider, you get nervous. You've got all that technical stuff to sort of start with, get your trainer paired, sit there in the pairing screen, come back, and be able to go. And so, nice to see that they just maybe got a little bit too excited, and that's why they sort of blew apart their team a little bit. But back to the Juju comment. Yes, so I think know, knowing your riders really well, but I think what I reckon is really important, this is where a really good DS comes in, I think, is knowing your plan A, B, C, and D. So okay, someone has a technical at the start. Okay, what do we do now? What's the order? Who's going to take the leads at these parts? Say the climber that you've pegged to be pacing the climb is having a real shocker. Okay, well, who's your 2IC who can then push up? So I think just having a whole bunch of sort of different plans. And I'd say in this course, it's really important to just look after your team. So if you're feeling awesome, don't do that hero maneuver of going off the front and exploding the legs behind you. It's all about looking after each other.
Yeah, and I think that we can put faffing in the same dictionary as juju there. So we'll keep adding to that little Zwift urban dictionary. The World Elite Zwifters, they're doing a pretty good job. They're not very coordinated outfit wise, Anna. How many times do we have to ask them to wear the
I
same jersey, fellas?
Oh,
But they do have
and their
some
jersey
impressive
is
setups here.
yeah, their actual blue jersey is beautiful, but they've just got a sort of a random, I think that's the 100-kilometer kit that someone's wearing. So obviously they're just wanting to let everyone know that they've put in some miles. Um, which I'll appreciate. That shows that you're a pretty good Zwifter if you've ridden 100K on there. Not 100 miles though. So keep riding, get that black kit, ride the 100-mile kit. But there are also a couple of them rocking that
You
sort of
are a
red.
harsh mistress, Anna Russell. 100K, it's kind of impressive, but phew.
But go do that 160. Come on. Um, this this team though, you've got three of the Tron bikes, and then someone's sort of on a not a great setup at the back. So maybe a bit more of a low level Zwifter just pulling in the back. They've got the good wheels. That does look like, I don't even think that's the 808s though. I think that might just be the 404s. And that S Works is not the most aero choice you could have gone for. I think probably the Canyon Aero Road 2021 would have been a lot better, but oof, there we go. That's probably why they're sitting at the back a little bit. As we look at TBR, so we saw them a lot in the women's field,
Hold
but
on, you want to move on from that critique there, Anna, but you are in fine, harsh form this evening. Watch out, riders. And if any teams aren't out on course yet, you've got a very short amount of time to fix whatever you need to before Anna gets a hold of you.
Well, there we go. And I don't know, we just actually popped on that TBR rider there for a sec as I changed topic pretty quickly, but they were looks like they've fallen off their team. So unfortunately, yeah, they've got a nice little group of four still going. So you do have to finish with four. So this is good for them. But I think what we'll see, and I'm really excited to see that beast mode DPAC sort of mano a mano competition, is if one of those teams can cross over the KOM with the full suite of six riders, they're going to absolutely crush it. So let's see what happens, because kind of even on looking at that going up the KOM, I wouldn't be able to say which team would have the strongest set of six, because you can only go as fast as your slowest rider. So we don't really know enough about those sixth rider positions. So who's your money on, Kate? Who do you think? Beast mode, DPAC?
Well, I quite like Beast Mode for this evening, and I'll tell you why. Because they've got quite a good mix of riders between triathletes, continental level road cyclists, like under 23s, and rowers. And all of them are quite strong when it comes to, and they've got some pretty powerful sprinters, but they're also, here they are now.
Oof.
They're all very good athletes at pacing and going for longer efforts. If you look at their power numbers, they've all got pretty good, especially 5 minute. And when it comes to teams' time trials, you don't necessarily need that because you do get the recovery. But I reckon that these guys, they're with five, so interesting to think who they may have lost so far, but they are 14 kilometres in.
They are crushing it, because I'm thinking they're at the top of the table. They would have started second to last or last, and they've got teams just up the road. They've passed Cryogen and Evo. So these guys are absolutely blitzing it. You can just kind of see with that pace, 50K an hour now that they're riding. Yeah, these guys are motivated. So I don't think they liked getting beaten last week, and they've really come out here to play, because this just looks strong.
It's not really kind of part of the German temperament to enjoy being beaten and not have it motivate you a little bit more.
Exactly, and I think just looking at this rider off the front, Ranker, I haven't actually seen Ranker's name come up much in the scratch racing, so maybe that's a call-in for this kind of style of racing. But they're pulling in nicely behind him, and he was just really throwing down the watts there. Looks like about Emmerich or Zils here coming through to take the lead. So these guys have got stronger riders in their team than I thought they did. I think we've always seen that kind of TM, Hats, Emmerich, but these other ones, Zilsa, Ranker, they've got some serious power numbers. It's good to see.
Well, it's interesting if you go into Zwift Power and take a look at their dimensions. I mean, you look at the avatar and it's quite hard to tell, but they are pretty big lads. A lot of them over 180 centimetres, a couple of them over 190 centimetres. So they're pretty solidly built and really powerful athletes. Definitely that's a frame we see be quite successful in rowing. Certainly that's the crossover there that they make very good Zwift riders and bike riders in general, the rowers. But their power for the 20 minutes, most of them are over that 5 watts per kg mark, and they're all quite heavy compared to some of the other teams. So considering that, I think they are going to be pretty hard to beat if they manage to keep it together. The only thing I think they need to be quite wary of, and they are in the dying ends here, so they've still got 5 and they're doing pretty well. But in general, in a team's time trial, is nobody accelerating too much or surging through too much, because sometimes that can just be the little thing that cracks somebody. But if they can all maintain a fairly average speed, and look at these heart rates, 188. I mean, he's pushing himself pretty hard here. They're moving fast. They're moving turns, swapping turns pretty quickly as well. So nobody's doing too much on the front, and they're going uphill at over 40 kilometers an hour. It was up to 4% when they were still going 40 kilometers an hour. So absolutely moving. So let's take a
Oh,
look at Deepak if we can, because I want to see what's happening here.
oh
Whoa,
wow.
look at this
Oh
dog guy.
man. This is what I said. Whoever of those two teams came over the top with 6 riders was going to crush it. And look how many Deepak's got. 6 riders. You got almost all Trons there. I mean, this is so fast moving. These guys are absolutely killing it. Riding 40k an hour there, up a 4% gradient. I mean, wow. I think, I don't know if I hold much hope for beast mode looking at this team now. 6 riders over that KOM. That's, it's almost unheard of on this course.
Well, and here's your boy, Sam Lindsay, the Kiwi. He's been incredibly strong the last couple of weeks. And again, he looks to be like he's really pulling the weight of this. He also looks like he's grown a bit of facial hair in the last couple of weeks. Or did he always have that beard? I'm not sure. I didn't notice it before, but it's on full show today. Sam Lindsay is certainly keeping the pace high for these guys.
Oh, he's doing really. I mean, he's always a bit of a fave of mine, being one of the few Kiwis in the field. But I'm loving it. Bevan as well. I mean, I know Bevan is a phenomenal sprinter. I thought maybe he would have been dropped on that climb, but I don't know if we have any replay of their climb. But they must have performed that so well, because those riders have very, very different power profiles, and they've managed to stay together, all of them, and come over the top. And this is just huge, because now they can push that power, which they do so well. Although they do have a little bit of a split here. They've just got to be a little bit careful. You can see Firminger, I think it is, just sprinting up a bit there. And that's what you said, Katie, was something to be aware of, was not those big surges to catch back on. Burns a few matches, but they've only got just over 2k to go.
Well, they're not too far behind catching beast mode, which blows my mind given how fast, organised and strong beast mode we're looking at there. I think beast mode could do a ripping job in Premier League, which goes to say that DPAC have well and truly earned their spot if that's what happens, and they're able to step up. Beast mode have maintained a really fast power and pretty high powers as well, fast speed, pardon me. They are down to 5, so they did lose someone. At what stage we don't quite know, because we didn't see when exactly that happened. Their heart rates are really high, their powers are still high, they're ticking along, their speed, look at that, nearly 60k an hour. It's kind of mind-blowing to think, isn't it, that DPAC's not too far behind.
I know, that's been an amazing team time trial. And if DPAC, can do that kind of performance, they definitely deserve to be in the Premier League. So that's what I love about this, is that these teams are kind of going mano a mano battling. And, there's been a dropout though, I think. Someone there, Ranker maybe? Dropped off way too quickly there. Maybe that was a bit of a strategic drop there, but that was a very fast drop off that main group, I think that was. So unfortunate there. But yeah, it's these two teams really deserve to be in Prem. You wish it could be both of them, but we have to see what happens in those playoffs coming up.
Yeah, we do have playoffs in weeks 7 and 8, so we're in week 5 now, so they've got another week ahead before that happens. I've been impressed with beast mode, regardless of what happens today or in the league. They've made a very big impact stepping in. This is their first season, and we've appreciated that, because it's really great to see such close and tight competition. It's certainly not over yet, regardless of what happens today. It's just one day, and they are tied on points overall. So, of course, and that's the thing, it's points overall. So even if Deepak were to win by quite a time margin, the only thing that really does is allow them to incrementally go ahead of beast mode. But I think possibly from a mentality perspective, it might put a bit of a dent in these guys. So they're pushing all the way to the line here. It's Ranker who goes across uh, quickly there. But look at
Whoa,
this Deepak right on their
Deepak
heels.
passed them
This is a
already.
matter of
Oh,
seconds. Wow.
wow. They've put in a huge amount of time. That was amazing from Deepak, and Cryogen just coming in too. But wow, I'd be ZWC as well, and Hashimoto. Hashimoto, our rider who I actually featured in one of my videos last week. Wasn't too impressed with the pink bike and the red kit, but very, very much impressed by his performance last week. Just huge effort. And these guys, very, very good performance too. I'll be really intrigued to see what those final standings are, and those time gaps between all those teams, because I think it could be pretty tight.
Uh, that was that was a bit of an unexpected result, to be honest. And I think that Hashimoto particularly did a great performance. Now let's just take a look at what happens here in the runoff to join the Premier Division. We have three teams ahead up, but that does come across from the different divisions. So Friday the 5th and Saturday the 6th. We've got the top two eligible teams, maximum 8 women's teams, and then we've got the points. The runoff system, Anna, that's pretty stressful, and there's quite a lot on the line for that.
Yeah, there is. So this is actually happening after week 8 of the current league we're in. So this is a 2 races in 2 days. It's pretty hard. You got a TTT race, you got a scratch race. The top 2 eligible teams from each A1 division across all of the Zwift Racing League, after these 8 regular season stages, will then battle for promotion in 1 points race on the Friday and 1 TT race on the Saturday. You can just see it here with the men's as well. All those A divisions at the bottom after week 8, those top 2 eligible teams from each of those will come through to those points and TTT competitions on, I'll say again, the 5th and 6th of March. And then the 3 teams, based in what I'd call that 2-day shootout, will get promoted as long as they meet all of the Zwift sort of data trainer standards, which teams will hear about. Those 3 teams will move up to the Prem division. So very, very exciting weekend of racing for the 5th and 6th of March. We will go back to the racing now, so the D category in the team time trial, but I'm super pumped about that style of the sort of what I do sort of call a 2-day shootout competition. It's sort of all for nothing, all or nothing.
I love the idea of it, and I think it'll certainly create some of the most exciting racing we'll get to see all season as it really heats up. And in effect, these are the races right now that they need to polish their craft. So even if they do, in some of the divisions, have a bit of a handy lead to go into those playoffs, this is the chance to try new things and see where they're at before they do have that 2-day shootout. I like how you call it that, shootout. It's a term cycling's never really used, but I think we probably should actually.
I don't even know where I got that from. I think maybe it's a running thing or something. But what also is super cool about that is it's not just your own sort of regional teams you need to worry about. So you might have, like we've talked about, Beast Mode and DPAC going up against each other. But what about the other teams they don't know about in EMEA or the Americas division? So you're going to have to start watching your competition, seeing what they're like, and making sure you're not just focusing on your own region. That's what's going to make it super exciting.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. If you have any aspirations of stepping up, you certainly need to start doing your research. Watch some of the racing, check out a lot of the data in Zwift Power, and take a look, see what the other teams are up and about. Now, this isn't textbook, what I would call textbook, Anna. We're looking at the Ds here, but a big gap here by RD. Now, this is where he needs to accelerate, or they're going to blow straight past him. We keep seeing this, and it's just happened again. So this is a mistake that a lot of riders, even some of the top teams, are making, that they're overcooking it just a little bit. The gap's opening up, so they are freewheeling
Whoa.
until
Yeah.
oh, look, did someone go off into the bushes there? Crikey.
I think
Now
so.
that was a little bit of
They
a
do.
violent ejection from the Zwift world, wasn't it? Take
Yeah.
that.
Quick pee or something. Yeah. Crazy. Oh no.
Oh dear. But
Um,
yes, they do need to really watch out for that moment. And he did rejoin without too much difficulty there, but it could go either way. That is also a pretty critical moment when that gap can open up and really cause a lot of damage.
yeah, sort of. I think the teams that we've seen sort of know what they're doing and are nice and tight and cohesive have really nailed that downhill portion. Some teams we've really seen have just completely exploded, and like you've saw just then, someone just kind of surged past the rest, and then someone rode off into the bushes, and then they were just a little bit all over the show. I think he's come back out though, so maybe a little detour around Central Park. Not quite sure what was going on there. Uh, but looking pretty good now. I do see this team, I believe, all have different sock colours, which sometimes is a indication of that's their order, maybe. The two at the front maybe have orange, but in the teams where they don't all necessarily speak the same language, sometimes they use things like sock colour or glove colour or different coloured trons and things, which is always kind of cool.